Movie review sesh.
Hello there, boys and girls.
What the fuck?
There were a lot of movies that came out this summer. I saw 11 movies in the theater, I think. Some of them were great, some of them were not so great, but overall, I thought it was probably the best summer movie season we've had in quite a while. So I decided to make a top 3 list, and we are going to go through those starting right now.
Mr. Graff, I can understand your passion, and I don't mind having these conversations with you because, God forbid, if it was my child, I'd be demanding answers too.
It's time to talk about the movie of the year. It's Weapons. And if you disagree with that, kick rocks. And you can hate me for saying this, but I think it's better than Sinners. That's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Sinners was my favorite movie of the year before I saw Weapons. But there were moments in Sinners where I remembered I was watching a movie, and with this, I was immersed. The general premise for this is a bunch of kids from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night at the same time, and the community is kind of left questioning what is behind their disappearance. This was written by Zach Kreger, who made Barbarian, and I really liked Barbarian, and this is a better film in almost every aspect except for the cinematography at points.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, bitch.
I think Barbarian is just appropriately dim enough for a horror movie, but there were times in this where I genuinely could not tell what the fuck was going on. It was only a couple of times, it was only a few shots, but still, crank those highlights up, crank that exposure up a little bit. Pop the key light on your actors, you know? Everything's trying to look so natural that it doesn't look cinematic. Yes, it would be totally pitch black in real life, but we need to see what's happening. But as far as complaints go, that's pretty much it. Other than that, this movie is flawless. And the structure of this movie is by far my favorite thing about it. It's very Pulp Fiction-y in terms of structuring the movie based around several characters' points of view. It is also very evident that Zach Kreger was influenced by early Paul Thomas Anderson stuff. There were shots that were ripped directly from Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love. There's also some very Sam Raimi inspired over-the-top blood geysers and bodily mutilations. And if you know me, you know horror is my jam, and you know Sam Raimi horror is more specifically my jam. So he kind of took aspects from kind of a few of my favorite filmmakers, and blended it all into a very original story, which I think is also why I might be extremely biased in calling this my favorite movie of the year, but I think it's well warranted, and pretty much everyone who saw it loved it. It is wholly original story-wise, and this was the first time in a long time where I was feeling the length of the film, but I didn't care, and I didn't want it to end. It ends exactly where it needs to. It does not go on for a beat longer than it does. This movie is edited extremely well. Some of the best jump scares I've seen in quite a long time. It uses them sparsely and effectively, exactly how jump scares should be used. Those It movies, everything is a jump scare. When every scare is the same, there's times where scary things, creepy things are happening in this movie, and they amount to nothing. They amount to not what you think they're going to. And that's fine. Pull the rug out from under you sometimes, you know? I think it's kind of hard to talk about this movie because I loved it so much and I almost didn't want to review it. I think it is best that you go into this movie as blind as possible if you have not seen it. Because other than the now kind of instantly iconic iconography of all the kids running, you know, with their arms out, I didn't know anything about this movie going in. I had nothing spoiled for me. This is also one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time, and that was not something I was expecting going in.
You good?
So when I was laughing my ass off in the theater, it was a pleasant surprise. I think everyone in the social zeitgeist kind of got carried away by talking about how crazy this movie is, that no one acknowledged how well-rounded and fleshed out the characters are. There were parts of this movie that were so intriguing from a character's perspective, from Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, young Han Solo, the young crackhead kid, that I forgot about the missing kids because I was so intrigued by what was going on with their characters. It's kind of a blend of almost every genre, and to pull that off and not feel like a tonal mess while making me care about the characters is pretty damn impressive. Every once in a while, there's a film that comes out that reminds me why I fucking love movies. And this was that for me. So I'm going to give Weapons a very rare 10 out of 10.
Are you watching?
Let's talk about The Final Reckoning, the final Tiny Tom adventure.
This can't all be true.
Every word.
Is this the best mission movie? No, but I would put it in my top 3. What the mission movies really thrive on is simplicity, and I think that's why a lot of people love Fallout so much, because Fallout, as far as the plot goes, it kind of takes a step back. The plot of Fallout is Tiny Tom loses plutonium and he has to recover it, and along the way, you get some of the best action set pieces in cinema history. You know, the selling point for all of these movies is what crazy thing is Tiny Tom Cruise going to do this time, and that works at its best when the plot is simple. The last two, while not hard to follow, are considerably more complex plots, because the plot of the last two consists of Tiny Tom and the IMF pursuing a rogue AI that has infiltrated like all the global intelligence units. So yeah, plot's a little more complex, but let's get to the things that didn't work so well for me in the final Tiny Tom Cruise adventure. I think there is a lot of exposition in The Final Reckoning, which is kind of something that every mission movie comes packaged with, but it's like turned up to 11 here. And I think that's because they know a lot of people missed Dead Reckoning or maybe didn't watch it. And this isn't really a critique from me, but I think from what the average audience member wants from a mission movie, this is more exposition than they're going to want. Now, as a two-part story, I personally like both of these packages working together. I think the franchise earned a two-part finale. But if you missed the last one, you're not necessarily going to be lost in this one. You're not going to be able to enjoy it as much. On my first viewing of this movie, the first hour was so jam-packed with exposition that I was like, okay, hold on. This movie needs to slow the fuck down. And my other issue with this movie, let's talk about the villain in this one. Let's talk about Gabriel. Now, the main villain of this one is a rogue AI, and I think that all of that is handled really well, but Gabriel is barely in this one, which I was disappointed by because I really liked him in Dead Reckoning. But in this, he's so mustache twirly, and not that I expect a lot from my mission villains, but the whole time I was kind of thinking like, damn, I kind of miss Henry Cavill. And I think they kind of fucked themselves there. I think they should have kept Henry around as the final boss of this franchise. You would have had a little more of an emotional connection to the villain. There would have been some history between Big Henry and Tiny Tom there. I mean, Tiny Tom versus Big Henry for 3 movies? Who the fuck doesn't want that? I will say, though, Gabriel's death scene was pretty hard. I saw this movie several times in the theater, and every audience I saw it with had the same exact reaction to it. And that was pretty cool to see 3 or 4 different audiences have the same reaction to the same frame.
Your team has been betrayed, Ethan. All your secrets compromised.
As far as for what I did like about this movie, the action in this is significantly reeled back, and I liked that because the 2 big set pieces that it does have, the submarine sequence and the plane sequence, are some of the longest and biggest mission has ever done. The submarine sequence is claustrophobic and anxiety-inducing as hell, and I love that there was no music for the entire time he was in that submarine. It would have completely taken you out of Ethan's shoes. So you really feel like you're there with him in that submarine. As far as the stakes go, you've seen the trailers, you've seen the other big, crazy plane sequences. So the stakes weren't there, but it still made you feel like he was maybe not going to make it out of there, And that's pretty impressive because I knew he wasn't going to die in the middle of the movie. Something went wrong while they were filming that submarine sequence, which was like the biggest tank in history that they built to film that sequence in their budget balloon to $400 million. So this movie needed to crack $1 billion to be profitable, and that was just never going to happen. I think it maybe made $575 million, so it did not make its money back. You would think, right? You would think, oh, 400 million made 575, that made $175 million. No, because you kind of have to factor in the marketing budget, which is almost the same rule of thumb. It's about the same as your production budget, and they marketed the fuck out of this movie.
Everything you are, everything you've done, has come to this.
And despite their best marketing efforts, it did not work, and it kind of died. Which is a shame, because this man might be a psycho, but he quite literally risks his life to entertain us. One thing I'll also give this movie huge credit for is that even though most of the missions have end-of-the-world stakes, you always know Tiny Tom and co. are going to get the job done. And in this, it kind of convinces you that they may not. It has this darker tone to it that, you know, other missions are a little more lighthearted and fun. This one was very reeled back on the humor and the jokes. It is truly admirable how solid this franchise has been over the last 30 years. And over the course of those 30 years, there is only one movie that I would say is not up to mission standard, and everyone knows what that one is. It's Mission 2. It's the one movie in the whole franchise that is a very evident product of its time. I think it kind of sucks.
Thank you.
And Media Madmen hot take time. I know a lot of people love Ghost Protocol. I'm not one of those people. I like Ghost Protocol, and I appreciate it as kind of it breathes some new life into this franchise, but I don't think it's as solid as everybody thinks it is. I think Rogue Nation is better than Ghost Protocol in almost every way. I don't think any of the action in Rogue Nation tops the Burj Khalifa scene. I think that's why a lot of people love Ghost Protocol, is because that Burj Khalifa scene is truly one of the best of the franchise. I don't think it's as good as Rogue Nation or any of the entries that come after it. I do think, as a general rule of thumb with this franchise, 2 aside, that it does get better with each entry. Each mission kind of gets better than the last, you know. Most people believe that Fallout is the best, and some days I agree with that take, and others I do not. It just kind of depends on my mood, you know. And even though it bombed because of Barbenheimer, I think Dead Reckoning is just as good, if not better, than Fallout, and it is wildly underappreciated. It has by far my favorite third act of the entire franchise, and that is the train set piece. Ooh, man, it's good. I'm actually going to make a big video, maybe two-part video of every Mission Impossible movie reviewed and ranked. That's going to be a big end-of-the-year project for this Media Madmen here. I'm going to give Mission Impossible: The Final Tiny Tom Adventure a very solid 8 out of 10.
Nobody walks away from Tiny Tom Cruise.
All right, let's move on to another big summer tentpole movie.
So you like straight talk?
Straight as an arrow, no sugar.
I don't know if I have a ton to say about this movie, but it was one of my favorites of the summer, so I got to include it. You know, I think this is the exact type of movie that theaters need right now. I think the last few summer blockbusters have kind of sucked, and people weren't really given a reason to be consistently going to the theaters. I mean, Barbenheimer was the kind of last big summer movie season event, and that was like 2 years ago. And the last big one before that was summer 2022 with Top Gun Maverick, which this has many similarities to. First off, they're both directed by Joseph Krasinski. They have very simple, feel-good stories with a kind of mentor-protege dynamic for the 2 lead characters. Some of the best practical action sequences in cinema history. Basically, in this movie, we follow Sonny Hayes, who comes out of Formula One retirement and teams up with a talented but hot-headed and immature driver. And along the way, they kind of take and give aspects of themselves to one another so they can grow as people. It's very simple stuff. Very simple, but very effective. And I don't think that enough people give credit to the writing in movies like this, because your initial thought might be like, oh, If it's so simple, how hard could it be? I could write a screenplay that's just as simple and effective. But that's the thing, dear Stephen. It's not so easy to write something that is so simple, yet so effective, that it makes it feel a little something inside, you know? It's not easy to write something that hits classic story structure beats, that makes you care about the characters while being an engaging film. You know, Pitt and Damson Idris are good in this movie as always. Pitt is charismatic as hell. I liked Javier I liked Javier Bardem's character too. And you know, if Brad's got a movie coming out, pretty safe bet that it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be at the very least watchable. And it is very evident that they took the technology they developed for Top Gun and applied it to this. Every race sequence in this movie feels like you are in the race with Brad and Damson Idris. It is insanely well done, and if you did not catch this in the theater in IMAX, I don't think you fully experienced it. I saw it in IMAX, and I saw it a couple times in standard format, and while the standard format was fine, the IMAX just takes the whole experience to another level, you know? The second time I saw this was with a couple friends, and one wanted to see Weapons, and the other wanted to see F1, and I had already seen both, so I didn't really care. And the next day, so we ended up going to see F1, and the one that wanted to see Weapons called me the next day and was like, I was not trying to see that movie, but it was pretty good. I definitely did not feel like I wasted my fucking time. And if I remember anything about this movie, it will be that. My other friend Amanda, who is a huge freak for Formula One, she saw it in 4D, and I bet that was pretty sick. But I don't have a ton more to say about it. It was simple, it was extremely effective, and I think it is exactly what summer blockbusters have been missing in recent years. So I'm going to give Formula One the slight edge over Mission Impossible, the final Tiny Tom adventure, and I'm going to give F1 an 8.5 out of 10. But alright, y'all, I think that's going to do it for the top 3 movies of the summer 2025 movie season. Be sure to comment down below what were your favorite movies of the summer movie season, whether it was Lilo and Stitch or Together, body horror movie, whatever. Drop it down below. I'll be sure to respond to your comments and let you know what I thought of those films as well.